Her wine glass was still in her hand when I stood up, her voice still echoing off the walnut-paneled walls, her smile still frozen in place, that kind of smug half-smile people make when they think they've won a private game no one else knows is being played. And me? I didn't even feel my legs move. The chair scraped backward. The waiter's hand twitched toward the bottle of Pinot. Bent heads turned slowly in confusion, then curiosity, then something sharper, judgment, maybe. But I wasn't listening. I wasn't breathing, not really, because she had just said the one sentence I now hear every single night in my head, like a cursed ringtone I can't shut off. He's not ambitious enough to be embarrassed. She said it like a joke, tossed it out over roasted duck and microgreens like it was harmless banter. But it wasn't. It was a knife she pulled from her clutch, polished with a napkin, and slid right between my ribs. And they laughed. Her coworkers. Her boss. That creative director from New York with the sleeve tattoos and a voice like gravel. They laughed, and I stood there like a museum exhibit of failure. Like the man who never made it past potential. She didn't look at me. Not right away. She was still mid-sip, still basking in their approval when she finally noticed the silence. The absence. My absence. I didn't slam anything. Didn't throw a drink. Didn't make a scene. I just left. Walked past tables of strangers chewing $60 entrees, past the jazz quartet in the corner, past the valet who asked if I needed my keys. And I kept walking. I walked so far I forgot where I'd parked. I walked past my anger, past the echo of her voice, past the version of me who would have said nothing and smiled through it. I walked until my feet ached and my phone buzzed with a single text. Seriously? That was all she wrote. Not "Where are you?" Not "I'm sorry." Just seriously? Like I was the problem. Like I was overreacting. She humiliated me in front of people I'd never met. During the one dinner she ever invited me to in years of those stupid networking galas she always said weren't for you. And now? Now she wanted to pretend like I was being dramatic. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm a whiny, insecure, second-rate husband who can't handle a joke. But maybe, just maybe, I was finally seeing her for who she really was. And what I saw wasn't love. I didn't plan it. I swear. It wasn't some premeditated, calculating move like in those revenge stories people write online, where every step is part of some master plan. No, I was still in shock, still hollowed out from the night before. But I couldn't stop myself when I saw it. Her phone. On the dresser. Face down. Screen black. Silent. She was in the shower, humming like she didn't just strip me of my dignity 12 hours ago in front of a table full of people who thought Ellis was short for entertaining little idiot spouse. And there it was. No password. Still unlocked. She trusted me. Or she thought I was too predictable to look. I'll be honest, I hesitated. For almost a full minute, I just stared at it. My reflection in the black screen looked like someone else entirely. Someone tired. Smaller. But when her humming got louder, some upbeat pop tune like her life was just fine, I picked it up. My hands were shaking. I started with her messages. Not the ones labeled Cole, or team chat, or work. No, that was too obvious. People who cheat never keep the poison in the bottle marked danger. They label it vitamins. It was a contact saved as V. Just V. I opened the thread. And I swear, something died inside me as I scrolled. Page after page. Week after week. Messages at 2 a.m. while I slept 2 rooms away. Photos. Voice notes. Videos. The kind of stuff you only send someone who's become the center of your world. And it wasn't Benton. It wasn't her boss. It wasn't anyone I'd ever met. It was her ex Victor. She always said he was toxic, controlling, manipulative. She said he cheated on her, broke her heart, messed with her head. I believed her. She used to cry when his name came up. I comforted her. I held her. I told her she deserved peace. Turns out, peace bored her. Because the texts I read weren't the desperate, confused type you'd expect from someone being manipulated. They were romantic, erotic, confessional. She called him baby. She sent him a picture of the new dress, the green one she wore last night at the dinner. She even texted, "Let's see if Ellis notices. He's always a few steps behind." There was a video clip. I played it. I shouldn't have. It was her, whispering into the camera. "You know, I was thinking about you while I sat across from him tonight. I wanted to text you under the table." My hands went cold. My legs. My teeth were numb. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. Just this crawling nausea that something I thought was whole had actually been rotting under the surface for years. She had been with him the whole time. Maybe not physically, maybe not always, but emotionally, mentally. She never let him go. She just shoved me into the empty space he left when he stomped out of her life. And when she missed him enough, she let him crawl back in. And I was the soft place to land. I put the phone down just as she turned the water off. My heart was hammering. I didn't even have time to step back. She walked out in a towel, smiling, cheeks flushed. "Hey," she said casually, like she hadn't ruined me. I nodded. "Hey." I didn't say a word. Not about the phone. Not yet. I didn't want her to lie. Not until I knew exactly how far this went. So I kissed her forehead. I asked if she wanted coffee. She said yes. And while she got dressed, I forwarded the entire message thread to myself, including the video. Then I deleted the sent notification from her phone and walked out the front door, coffee in hand, pretending I was going to the store. But I wasn't. I was going to meet the one person who'd unknowingly been warning me about her for years. Her sister. I parked 3 blocks away like some kind of spy. I don't even know why. Maybe it was shame, or guilt, or the fear that Clara might suddenly appear behind me and shatter whatever fragile sense of control I was clinging to. The morning air was sharp, the kind that makes your lungs contract when you breathe too deeply. I didn't care. I walked up the path to Ren's place with the weight of her entire betrayal pressed between my shoulder blades. Ren is Clara's younger sister by 2 years, but she always felt older to me. Calmer, sharper, never afraid to stare awkwardness in the face and say what needed to be said. She never liked me much. Or maybe that's wrong. She liked me, but she didn't respect how easily I let Clara walk all over me. She once told me, during a Thanksgiving cleanup, "You love Clara like a lighthouse loves a ship, shining even when she's headed for rocks." At the time, I thought it was poetic. Now I realize it was a warning. She opened the door barefoot, holding a chipped coffee mug and wearing an oversized hoodie. Her hair was messy, like she'd just gotten up. "Ellis," she said, her eyebrows pulled together. "It's 8:40 a.m. on a Saturday. Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I just held up the phone and played the video. No words. Just Clara's voice whispering on screen. "You know, I was thinking about you while I sat across from him tonight. I wanted to text you under the table." Ren didn't flinch, didn't gasp, didn't say, "What is this?" or "How did you get that?" She just watched the screen go black. Then she took a long sip of her coffee, placed it on the railing beside the door, and opened it wider. "Come in," she said. "You need to sit down." That was the moment I knew. The moment everything inside me cracked in half. She knew. She already knew. Not just about the video, but about them. I stepped into her apartment like I was stepping onto another planet. Her dog barked once, then went back to sleep. The whole place smelled like cinnamon and lavender, like normalcy, something I didn't realize I hadn't felt in months. "I need you to be honest with me," I said once we Saturday. "How long has she been talking to Victor?" Ren didn't dodge. She didn't sigh or spin it gently like everyone else in Clara's life always did. She just leaned forward and said, "On and off for over a year." I swallowed. My throat felt raw, like I'd been screaming even though I hadn't spoken above a whisper all morning. She told me he was abusive, that he cheated, that he traumatized her. Ren tilted her head. "He did." That made my stomach twist. Then why? Why would she? "Because Clara isn't built to love quietly," Ren said, her voice low and brutal. "She wants chaos, drama. She craves being desired by men she can't have. You made her feel safe, Ellis. That bored her. She used to say you were too good to her like it was a flaw." I stared at her, stunned. She continued. "I told her a dozen times to cut it off. I begged her to block him, to come clean. You know what she said to me last week?" She looked at me then, directly. She said, "Ellis is too passive to ever find out. And if he does, he'll just write me a sad letter and disappear quietly." Those words, "disappear quietly," felt like bullets. Ren handed me a folder from her drawer. I didn't ask. I just opened it. Inside were photos, screenshots, emails, a hotel receipt with Clara's name and Victor's initials scrawled across the bottom. There were texts Ren had asked Clara to delete, arguments between the sisters about emotional infidelity, and "you're not that innocent yourself." She called me controlling, Ren said. Said I was jealous of her love life. Can you believe that? Jealous. I sat back on the couch, folder still in my lap, and finally let my chest rise and fall like I'd been holding my breath all year. "Why are you showing me this now?" I asked. Ren looked at me long and hard. "Because she crossed a line last night. She humiliated you publicly. That wasn't just cheating. That was cruelty, and I'm done covering for her." I nodded slowly. "So am I." But in the quiet that followed, a darker idea began to take shape in my mind. Not just survival, not just leaving. Something more deliberate. Something Clara wouldn't see coming. I looked at Ren, and for the first time, she didn't look at me like I was a pushover. She looked at me like someone who'd woken up. And what I said next surprised even me. "I think it's time she learns what predictable really looks like when it's done playing nice." I didn't go home that night. I didn't even text Clara. I stayed at a cheap roadside motel off I-94 that smelled like mildew and regret, where the water ran orange for the first 2 seconds and the pillows felt like they were stuffed with shredded newspaper. But for the first time in what felt like years, I slept. Not well, not deeply, but I slept without her breathing beside me, without her phone lighting up at 2 a.m. with a message from B. When I woke up, I stared at the motel ceiling for a long time and realized something. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't even angry. I was humiliated. I was embarrassed that I'd let myself become a prop in her fantasy, a background character in the drama she secretly wished her life still was. And the more I thought about that line she said at dinner, "He's not ambitious enough to be embarrassed," the more I realized how wrong she was. I was embarrassed. Deeply. But not about my ambition. About her. About being so desperate to keep her happy that I forgot to keep myself intact. So I made a list. A stupid, scribbled list on motel stationery of everything I knew. Everything I had. And everything I was going to do. Clara never thought I had a line. A boundary. She believed I'd endure anything, as long as she didn't say the word divorce. And she was almost right. Almost. But she forgot something. Even predictable men can burn when pushed too far. I called in sick to work that Monday, which wasn't hard. I'd built up months of unused time. My supervisor was kind, told me to take the week if I needed. I didn't tell him it was because I was unraveling a betrayal I couldn't unsee. Instead, I packed up everything from our shared Google Drive. Bills, property titles, tax filings, the entire shared life we'd built, bit by digital bit. Then I went home. She wasn't there. Her car was gone. Probably brunch. Or yoga. Or, God help me, meeting up with Victor somewhere under a fake name and a reservation for 2. I walked into our bedroom like a stranger breaking into someone else's house. I opened her side of the closet, touched the soft, expensive jackets I bought her over birthdays and anniversaries. I stared at her shoes lined up like soldiers in a war I hadn't realized I was losing. And then I saw it. A red box tucked in the back corner behind her winter coats. I pulled it out, sat on the bed, and opened it. Inside was a necklace. Rose gold. Small diamond pendant. New. Price tag still attached. $6.40. And the receipt was there too. Dated 2 weeks ago. Paid in cash. I hadn't bought it. There was a sticky note attached. It said, "For when he's finally gone." I sat there for at least 15 minutes. My mouth dry. My heart weirdly calm. The kind of calm you only feel when you've officially stopped loving someone and started mourning them. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning her future. Without me. And the note? The cash payment? That was the proof I needed that she wasn't just emotionally lost or reconnecting with an old flame. No. She was phasing me out. Softly. Slowly. Strategically. Probably waiting for the mortgage to renew, for the company bonus, for the Christmas photo. One last year as the happy couple, and then the cut. But I wasn't going to give her the luxury of a slow goodbye. I put the box back exactly where I found it. Then I went into my office, grabbed the small safe I kept under the desk, and pulled out the folder Ren had given me. I added my own screenshots, my own notes. I compiled the timeline. Every late night, every trip, every lie she told me about back-to-back meetings and client drinks. And then I did the one thing Clara would never expect me to do. I booked a reservation, for 2, at the same restaurant where she humiliated me, for this Friday night. Why? Because I wasn't going to leave her. Not yet. I was going to make her think everything was fine, that I was over it, that I forgave her, and then I was going to take that dinner and bury her image in front of everyone. By the time Friday rolled around, I had rehearsed the night 100 different ways in my head. Every look, every pause, every fake laugh I would force out just to keep the mask on. The idea wasn't to expose her immediately. No, it was to let her unravel herself, to let her speak freely, comfortably, confidently, so that when the moment came, she'd have nowhere to run. Clara dressed like she was starring in her own success story that night. Emerald green silk dress. The dress, paired with gold earrings I didn't recognize and a perfume that hit me in the chest because I realized she hadn't worn it in months. Not around me, anyway. You look amazing, I said, and I watched her blink like she didn't expect a compliment from me. She smiled, kissed my cheek. I'm glad we're doing this. I feel like we've been off lately. Off. Like she hadn't been sneaking around with a man who once called her a hurricane worth chasing. Like she hadn't left breadcrumbs of betrayal all across our shared life and expected me never to follow them. I didn't flinch. I just nodded. Yeah, this is good. We arrived at the restaurant around 7:45. Same private dining area. Same linen-covered tables. Same ridiculous $60 appetizers. The manager even recognized her and led us back like we were some power couple in a lifestyle magazine. I guess we looked the part. But this time, it was just us. No coworkers. No laughter. Just Clara and the husband she thought was too spineless to fight back. The waiter brought wine. Clara ordered confidently, already leaning into her chair like this was her element. She talked about her week, her work trip to Lansing, her meeting with the new contractor who really gets her vision. I knew she hadn't gone to Lansing. I knew who the contractor really was. And yet I smiled. I asked all the right questions. Nodded. Gave her room to monologue. That was the trick. Clara loved an audience. She didn't notice when I recorded parts of our conversation with my phone resting casually against my wallet on the table. She didn't notice when I repeated her words back to her slowly, so they'd register clearly. She was too busy thinking I was falling back in love with her. And then it happened. She leaned in, swirling her wine, eyes glossy. I just want to be real with you, Ellis. I know I've been distant, and I take responsibility for that. But I think we're finding our way back to each other, and that means something. I stared at her, at the woman who had, hours earlier, sent Victor a message saying, "Tonight's just for show. I'll be back tomorrow." I looked her dead in the eyes. "Do you really believe that?" I asked gently. "That we're finding our way back?" She smiled. "Yes, don't you?" And in that moment, I saw it all. How she rehearsed this version of herself. How she crafted a lie that she could sell even to herself. She was good. I'll give her that. She knew how to look remorseful. She knew how to fake softness, to rebuild trust one carefully chosen word at a time. But she wasn't counting on one thing, that I had already scheduled the message drop. At exactly 9 p.m. Every person in her office, including her direct supervisor, 2 of her closest coworkers, and Benton, received an anonymous email. Inside was the compilation, screenshots of her messages with Victor, voice recordings from nights I pretended to be asleep, a copy of the hotel receipt, a copy of her whispering into the camera about thinking of someone else while sitting across from me. I scheduled the email. I didn't need to press send. All I needed to do was sit there. Her phone buzzed once. Then again. Then again. Her hand twitched toward her purse. I could see it. Her composure starting to slip. "Is everything okay?" I asked, sipping my drink. She smiled, tight-lipped, forced. "Just some work stuff." "Sure," I said. Then it buzzed again. Her hand was trembling now. Her nails tapped her glass like she was trying to stall time. I could practically see her heart racing behind her eyes. She knew something was wrong. She just didn't know how bad it was yet. "Excuse me," she said finally, standing up. "I just need to step out for a second. I think something's going on with the development team." I stood too. "Actually, Clara," I said as she froze mid-turn, "I think you'll want to sit back down." Her lips parted, confused. I reached into my coat pocket and placed a printed copy of one of the messages onto the table. Her message to Victor. "He still thinks we're rebuilding. Poor guy doesn't know I'm already halfway gone." She stared at it. Then she sat. Slowly. Quietly. Her hands were suddenly still. She looked up at me, lips dry. "What is this?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because right then, her phone exploded. Not just notifications, calls. From her boss. From Benton. From Human Resources. And her face. Her face told me everything. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. This was about everything she'd built burning down around her. She didn't speak for a full 30 seconds. It was strange watching Clara unravel in silence. Her eyes darted across the printed message like maybe, just maybe, she could find some hidden clause in her own betrayal. Something that made it less than it was. Something she could twist, reframe, paint as a misunderstanding. But there was no room for that. Not anymore. She looked up at me and tried to speak. I could see the words forming and collapsing in her mouth like broken scaffolding. Nothing came out. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't reach for it this time. I leaned forward slightly and said, calmly, "That's from your boss." "How do you know that?" Her voice was faint, shaky. "I know a lot of things now." She closed her eyes and rubbed her temple like the headache might make the reality go away. "Ellis, I don't know what you think you found." "Don't do that," I said quietly. "Don't insult me by pretending this is some gray area. You lied. You planned. You used me as a prop while you auditioned for your next life." "I didn't plan to hurt you," she said. "Really?" I nodded at the message on the table. "He still thinks we're rebuilding" doesn't exactly sound like mercy. She exhaled hard, looked down, and finally muttered, "It wasn't supposed to go this far." "What part?" I asked. "The affair? The lying? The necklace labeled for when he's finally gone?" Her head snapped up. Her lips parted like she'd just been slapped. "You went through my things." I laughed, just once bitterly. "That's the line? After all this, you're going to accuse me of betrayal?" She said nothing. I leaned back in my chair, calm now. Absolutely calm. "Here's the part that really eats at me, Clara. It's not the cheating. It's not even the fact that you humiliated me at a dinner you only invited me to so you could feel superior. No, it's that you looked at everything I gave, years of patience, loyalty, emotional bandwidth, and decided that none of it mattered because I didn't excite you anymore." She didn't cry. Clara didn't do messy emotion. She did curated regret. Silent tears behind locked bathroom doors. But now, even that mask was slipping. "I just wanted something that felt alive," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "And you were willing to kill everything good to feel it for a few seconds." Her phone lit up again. This time it rang, and I watched her face go pale. She reached for it instinctively, hesitated, then looked at me like a prisoner waiting to hear the verdict. "It's the board," she whispered. "I'd answer that," I said. "They're going to want to know why you've been using company time and resources to send hotel bookings to your ex." Her fingers trembled. "You didn't." "I did," I replied. "And just so you know, I didn't even include the worst stuff." She looked like she might throw up. I stood slowly, pulled a small manila envelope from my coat, and placed it on the table. "What is that?" she asked. "Divorce packet," I said. "I haven't filed it yet, but I will. And when I do, I want you to understand something." She stared, not breathing. "I'm not doing this to get even. I'm not doing it to make you suffer. I'm doing it so I never have to sit across from a woman who looks at me like I'm background noise ever again." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I adjusted my coat. "I paid the bill already. You can stay here if you need to. Process." Then I turned and walked out of that restaurant for the second time in 1 week. But this time, I wasn't the broken man being laughed at. I was the man walking away from a burning building with the matchbook still in his pocket. The moment I stepped onto the sidewalk, my hands started to shake. Not from guilt, not from fear, from release. It was over. But something told me Clara wasn't going to go quietly. And I was right. Because 2 days later, I got a knock on my apartment door. And it wasn't her. It was Victor. I thought the story would end at the restaurant. I thought Clara's humiliation would be the final chapter, the satisfying moment where the man everyone underestimated finally stood up for himself and walked away. But stories like that are neat, clean. Mine wasn't. Because 2 days later, someone knocked on my door at 9:12 p.m. And when I opened it, there stood Victor. He didn't look like I expected. No leather jacket. No smug grin. No alpha male posture. He wore a charcoal coat, jeans, and a gray hoodie underneath. He looked tired, like someone who hadn't slept in days. And in his hand, of all things, was a six-pack of some local craft beer I didn't even like. "Ellis?" he asked. His voice was level, polite even. I didn't answer, just stared at him, stunned. He sighed. "I figured this would be weird. But we need to talk." I should have slammed the door. I wanted to slam the door. But something about the way he said it, like we were on the same team and just didn't know it yet, froze me in place. 5 minutes later, we were sitting in my apartment, 2 beers open, silence stretching between us like fishing line, thin, invisible, but ready to snap. "I didn't come to fight you," he said finally. "I came to apologize. And warn you. Warn me. He nodded. Clara's not what she pretends to be. You already know that now, but you don't know the half of it. I crossed my arms. You're the guy she cheated on me with. You think you're about to earn moral high ground? He gave a short, bitter laugh. Fair. But let me explain something. I didn't know she was still with you. I scoffed. Come on. I'm serious. He leaned in slightly. She told me you two were separated, living apart. Said you were emotionally distant, maybe seeing someone else. She told me I was the reason she was finally feeling alive again. I stared at him, unsure whether to punch him or thank him for confirming everything I feared. He continued. She sent me screenshots. Made you look like the one gaslighting her. Every time you try to talk to her about anything, she'd spin it into some control tactic. I swallowed hard. Victor reached into his coat and pulled out a flash drive. This is everything. Texts, voice notes, a screen recording of our chats from the last 6 months. I started saving things when I noticed a pattern. What pattern? She lies differently to everyone. You, me, Ren, her coworkers. She tailors the truth depending on the audience. You get the broken, overwhelmed woman clinging to a dying marriage. I get the sexy, misunderstood rebel. Her job gets the put-together executive with a personal life in order. It's all curated. I looked at the flash drive. Why give me this? Because I thought I knew her. I thought I was getting back the woman I dated 10 years ago. But last night, she texted me saying she needed space. That I was too intense. Said she was reconnecting with you, and it was a complicated situation. He laughed dryly. That's when I knew I was just the next sucker in line. I was quiet for a long time. She's trying to flip the narrative now, I said finally. Her job's on the line. She's cornered. And people like Clara don't apologize. They reposition. Victor nodded. She doesn't care who she burns as long as she looks clean. Then he stood. Look, I don't expect you to forgive me. And I'm not here to play some hurt men unite club. But I figured you deserve the full picture before she tries to rewrite it. He left without shaking my hand. Just nodded once, left the six-pack behind, and disappeared down the hall. That night, I plugged in the flash drive. I saw messages that chilled me. Things she told him, about me, that were personal, distorted, weaponized. She said I was paranoid, controlling, that I monitored her like some creepy, jealous husband. She even told him I'd threatened to hurt myself if she left. That last one hit hardest, because I've never once raised my voice to her, never guilt-tripped her, never played that card. And she knew it. But it didn't matter, because truth to Clara is a tool, not a value. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Told him to file the divorce, no delay. And then I got to work. If Clara wanted to burn every bridge to keep her image intact, I was going to make damn sure the ashes spelled out my side of the story. After I filed the divorce paperwork, I didn't wait around for Clara's response. I didn't check the case status online every hour. I didn't obsess over her next move. I finally understood something Ren had told me months ago. You're not responsible for keeping her chaos in check. And she was right. I had spent years trying to steady a woman who had no intention of staying grounded. She needed the storm. I just needed peace. The weeks after Victor's visit were strange. Quiet, but heavy. My apartment was still barely furnished. A couch, a mattress on the floor, a coffee maker. I didn't decorate. I didn't need to. It was the first space in a long time that felt like mine. It wasn't pretty, but it was honest. I expected Clara to reach out, scream, beg, blame. But instead, I got a single email. You were never meant to play dirty, Ellis. But I see now you're not as weak as I thought. Good luck. No apology. No regret. Just another sentence designed to sound like a compliment, but still dripping with insult. I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because she didn't matter anymore. What surprised me was what happened after. Word spread fast. Victor sent the flash drive to HR. Her firm launched an investigation. Not just into her, but into how many of her projects had blurred ethical lines. A few internal whispers reached me through Ren, who, by the way, stood by me the whole time. Said she'd never seen her sister look so small, so publicly undone. Clara wasn't fired, not officially. But she stepped back, lost her title, and suddenly found herself a ghost in a building she once ruled. That was poetic enough for me. But I didn't keep watching. I didn't celebrate her downfall like a movie villain. Because something better was happening. I started rebuilding. For real this time. It started small. I took back my Sunday mornings. I walked to the park without needing permission. I fixed up a secondhand bike. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since before Clara and I got married. Writing helped. Not dramatic, angry rants. Just truths I'd ignored while playing husband of the year to someone who didn't know what loyalty was worth. And then, something unexpected. Ren and I kept talking. Nothing romantic at first, I swear. We were just two people unpacking damage from the same bomb. But over time, we started meeting for coffee. Then lunch. Then she invited me to a small book launch she was designing the cover for. And before I knew it, I was laughing in ways I hadn't in years. She never pushed, never tried to replace her sister. She just listened, saw me, and eventually, something grew there. Something patient, quiet, real. We're not rushing it. We both know how messy the past was. But for once, I'm not in a story where I'm begging to be noticed. I'm in a story where I'm equal. And that feels incredible. So yeah, Clara said one line at a business dinner that triggered a chain of events I never saw coming. But in the end, I'm grateful. Because she didn't just end our marriage that night. She set me free.